Hey everybody, good morning. This is Read It Again Bookstore in Suwanee, Georgia, and today we are with Randi here, and she's got a beautiful picture book to share with us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. So, can you tell me a little? Okay, so I know this is for kids, but as an adult, and maybe some kids out there too, I'm really interested in how did this book come about?
That's a great question. So about 5 years ago, I discovered when we went in our garage, these little brown birds kept like flying at us, and they didn't like my husband. They were fine with me, but they would dive bomb him. And I thought they were stuck in there. So we'd get a broom and we try to gently get them out, and they just wouldn't go. And I'm like, these have to be the dumbest birds, because clearly it's open. It should be easy to get out. Well, when we investigated a little bit more, we discovered there was a nest, and they had built a nest in a bike helmet, in my son's bike helmet, which I thought was so bizarre. And so we kept the garage open and let them nest. And then every year they come back and build a nest in my garage. It's been on the brim of a hat. It's been in a cloth Publix bag on top of a stack of books. So they like to read, which makes me love wrens even more. It's been in all kinds of containers, and I brought a couple to show, if you'd like me to share those. But anyway, I started to research it because it just fascinated me that they were so close to us and didn't seem to care that they were so close to us, and very persistent. And after the babies had fledged, I was able to look at the nest, and it was just fascinating to me. So when I started researching, I was blown away, because there's so much science and so much thought and care that goes into this nest. It's an absolutely incredible feat of engineering and architecture. And birds are, of course, one of our greatest animal architects. We've learned a lot from them. So I just had to write it. And then I woke up one day with the title in my head, The Nest That Wren Built, and there you go. That's how I wrote it.
So you said you have some nests. Can we see them?
I do. Now, I have to do a little disclaimer, because I interviewed the education director at the Atlanta Audubon Society last week, and she said it is illegal to take nests from their location. But since these are on my property and I'm going to put them right back, and this is in the actual container where it was, it's okay. But if you want to, you have to have a special permit, which I will plan on getting. But this is a little tin pail. Y'all see that? It was on a shelf under my deck. Okay. And last year, can you see inside?
Wow.
It's very telltale for a wren's nest, because it's thick and bulky, and it has a side entrance. They're very cave-like. They're very protected. I mean, they're so far back in there, you can hardly see them when they're in there. Then I have another one. That was from their last brood of the season last year, which is generally, I think it was around June, and they had 5 babies that all fledged, and we got to watch them. So it was really cool. This one was early on this year. Let's see if I can show you that. And there are actually eggs in it. And this was in this box on a shelf in my garage. And unfortunately, we didn't realize that I thought it was very early for them to start nesting. I think maybe because it's been so warm. And we didn't realize it. And so the garage was closed a lot. And I think the mama couldn't get back in there to incubate the eggs. So that one was abandoned. But they just started a new nest and lay their eggs in my garage again, this time in a basket. So we know about it. We'll get to watch them and watch the babies hatch and get to see them fledge. They're very personable birds, and they trust me. So like last year, I got to just sit and watch them. They would come in and feed them. And then when they were teaching the babies to fly, it's just such a fun thing for kids to watch right there under our noses.
So, and you're a teacher, right?
I am an instructional coach. So I work with teachers and students, but I'm a literacy specialist and an instructional coach at a middle school in Cartersville, which is northwest. So we're about probably an hour from you or so.
So if anybody's interested in a copy of The Nest That Wren Built, we can get you a copy. And yes. Because Randi is local, we should be able to get it autographed too.
Absolutely.
So if anybody wants a copy. Do you mind reading your book for us now?
I would love to read my book. So the illustrator's name is Ann Hunter, and she did such a beautiful job on the book. There's so much detail, and it's friendly without, I mean, it's realistic without being, boring. And she did something really cool. She hid an ant on every page. So I'll try to show you where those are. And she has lots of other hidden critters in the book. So here we go. These are the twigs dried in the sun that Papa collected one by one to cradle the nest that Wren built. So one thing that's really interesting about the male wrens, they will build like 10 to 12 dummy nests, and then they'll sing their little hearts out. They have a very big sound for a little bird, and the females will come, and then they will take them on a tour of all those little starter homes. And when the female finds one she likes, she will say, yep, this is the one, and then she'll take it all apart and start all over again. This is the bark, snippets of twine, spidery rootlets, and needles of pine that shape the nest that Wren built. See that? Let me see where the ant is on this. There he is. Can you see him way down there? There's the ant. They both build a nest, but the mother wren is the one who's in charge of the interior decorating, because she's the one who has to be in there for so long with her babies. These are the leaves of ruby and gold, fallen from trees sturdy and old, that weave through the nest that Wren built. There's lots of critters hiding there. Whoop. And on this side, you can see there's a little, who's that? A grasshopper, and there's the ant on the log. I think the grasshopper is probably saying, please don't eat me. This is the sack, silky and white, brimming with spiders who feast on the mites that threaten the nest that Wren built. This is the snakeskin, warding off harm, a scaly and thin reptilian charm, draped on the nest that Wren built. So you can see the spider sack right there, and there's a snakeskin. Wrens and some other birds too will sometimes put a spider sack in their nest, because when the spiderlings, the little baby spiders, hatch, they'll eat mites, which are these tiny little microscopic parasites that they can harm the babies. So they're pretty smart. And the snakeskin, scientists found out, or they theorized, that's their theory, that they do that to ward off predators, to keep predators away. So they're really smart in that respect. And there's the ant. He's really big on this page. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody else is looking. Can you see who that is? Squirrel. Just checking things out. He has a new neighbor. This is the moss, softer than suede, stolen from stones, cool in the shade, to line the nest that Wren built. Somebody's checking things out. There's a little ladybug. They want that nest to be very soft and comfy for the eggs. Oh, there's somebody else hiding down here. A little snail. So that those eggs will be protected, and then the babies will be comfy. These are the feathers, petals and thread, placed on the moss to soften the bed that waits in the nest that Wren built. There's the nest, and they're both working on it, making sure. Where's the ant? Oh, there he is. Can you see the ant? He's right there. This is the tuft of rabbity fur, plucked from a sharp persnickety burr to warm the nest that Wren built. And there's the bunny in the distance. And you can see there's a katydid. And where is the ant? Where's the ant on this page? I know he's there somewhere. There's another bug right there. Oh, there's the ant right down there. There he is. This is the papa perching nearby, chirping a mirthful song to the sky and guarding the nest that Wren built. Now, why do you think the papa is guarding the nest? I wonder if something else is in the nest now. But you can see what it is. There are the eggs. These are the eggs laid on the bed of velvety moss, feathers and thread, safe in the nest that Wren built. There's Mama. And when Mama's in there incubating her eggs, which takes about 14 days, the Papa Wren will feed her. Let me see where the ant is on this page. There he is. Right up there. Right there. These are the hatchlings scratching within, stretching and pecking, all scrawny and thin, that hatch in the nest that Wren built. And the mama and papa both take very good care of the babies. After they're born, they both feed them. And I have a little confession. They're really not that cute when they're born. They're actually kind of scary looking, but they grow so fast that they get cute pretty quickly. But they don't have any hair or any feathers on them at all when they're born. There's the ant. This is Papa hunting for food, a spider or beetle to nourish the brood that waits in the nest that Wren built. They have incredible beaks. Uh-oh, there's the ant, but who's hiding under that leaf? Looks like a beetle, and there's a salamander over on the other side. And I know they're saying, don't eat us, don't eat us, don't eat us. When the babies are born, they don't eat a lot of seeds or things like that. They eat a high protein diet, so live things. I watched a mama feeding one yesterday, and she had a big fat larva, bright green larva that she was feeding her babies. These are the nestlings, drowsy and fed, snugly and plump on their feathery bed, warm in the nest that Wren built. Uh-oh, who became lunch? Let's see, or dinner. Uh-oh, it was the little beetle. But somebody's gotta be dinner, right? Who's down here? Uh-oh, there's another critter right there. Can you see? There's a little mouse. He's checking things out. These are the fledglings, 14 days old. They inch to the edge while feathers unfold. And what are they going to do next? You guessed it. Then fly from the nest that Wren built. There they go. And the ant on this one is very, very hard to find. I'm going to show you real close. There it is. Teeny, teeny, tiny. There's Mama and Papa. They're watching their babies fly. Now, they will still take care of them for 2 or 3 weeks after they are able to fly. They'll help them find food. They'll still feed them. They'll make sure that they have a safe place to roost at night. And I love this last page by the illustrator and hunter. You will see right there who is moving into the nest now that it's abandoned. The mice. And they can start their very own family. And there's the ant up here. There he is. Whoops, there he is. He's gazing up at the moon. And then in the back, there's a glossary that defines some of those words for you, like it shows you up close a rootlet and a fledgling. The fledgling is a little bird who has feathers and enough to keep him warm out of the nest and is ready to fly. And there's the mama or papa bird nourishing, feeding the young baby bird. There's a close-up of the spider sac. And then there are lots of extra facts there about wrens and a picture of a wren in a mailbox, which it's not uncommon at all for a wren to build a nest in a mailbox if it's left open. They will build them in all kinds of strange places. wreaths on the front of doors, inside a grill cover. They will build their nests just about anywhere. And I think that they build them so close to humans because they know that other predators are not going to venture that close to people, like coyotes and, well, snakes might. But what I found out also from the director of the Audubon Society here in Atlanta is that chipmunks are one of the predators of baby birds and baby eggs, and I didn't know that. So there you go. That is a Nest That Wren Built.
Yay! I really enjoyed that. Who's the illustrator? She did a beautiful job.
Her name is Ann Hunter, and she has she's an author illustrator, so she also writes books. And she just had one come out called Where's Baby, which was one of the Dolly Parton Imagination Library selections. And also she has a series about possum. So Possum Summer Storm, I think, is one. And she just does an amazing job.
That's a gorgeous book.
Yeah.
So you repeat the phrase, the nest that Wren built, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about why you chose to do that?
Sure. I love the structure of the house that Jack built, but the actual structure is cumulative. They keep adding pieces to it, and you go back and name all those pieces plus the new one. And that was it just got too clunky, a little too busy for the text. I wanted to keep it simple. And that refrain, that's what we call that repeating line, helps to unify the story, but also to keep the focus on the nest. The nest is essential for the survival of the species, and different birds build different kinds of nest. And somehow they know they have this blueprint, and we need a physical blueprint with plans to follow, but birds have that all in their brain. The things that they use, the type that they make, like the wrens have that little side entrance and are very cave-like, where some just like scrape a little hole in the dirt. Shorebirds do that a lot and lay their eggs. Or hummingbirds, they use spider silk to attach it to a branch so it's nice and firm. And then they use lichens to help camouflage it against the branches where they anchor their nest. Orioles make like a stretchy kind of hanging nest that hangs down almost like a pouch, like a pouch netting. So I wanted to bring that focus to the nest because they're just remarkable. They're remarkable feats of engineering and really demonstrate how much care goes into making a place where it's safe for the eggs to be laid, where the babies can thrive while the parents nourish them so that they can one day fly off and then start, a family of their own. And that's what has ensured the survival of wrens. And this is an adaptation for them to make their nest very close to humans. That's something that they have learned helps to ensure their survival as a species.
Wow, that's awesome. So what else did you learn while you were writing this book? Because
so much. The wrens mate for life, which is really a very cool thing. Not all birds do that. And they're monogamous, so they'll stay with one mate. And they usually come back to the same place. So the pair of wrens that I have that are nesting in my garage are the same ones that nested last year. And when there will be wrens coming back, but those will probably be the offspring. When these wrens aren't here anymore, the babies then will start their own families and come back. But they're very territorial. So usually there's just one pair in a particular site. One other thing I learned, this is not from my research, but something I've learned because I have feeders in my backyard and on my deck. Wrens love walnuts and pecans. So if you don't have feeders at your house and you want to attract some birds, if you have a deck or patio and you just set out on a little table or on the deck railing some walnuts that are, just kind of in little pieces, somebody will come get them. It might not be a wren, but it might be a titmouse. They love walnuts too. And so do chickadees, Carolina chickadees. So they'll come. Oh, I wanted to play you the Wren song because
Oh yeah.
wrens are very, they're everywhere, and you may have heard them, but not know that that's what it was. So, and the male is the only one who sings. I did learn that. The female, she chirps and can make some noises along with him, but she's not the one you'll hear singing, but she will respond to him. So you'll hear the male, and then you'll hear this chirping, this kind of trilling sound, and that's the female. Did you hear that chirping sound? They have different songs though. This song is just the sort of cheery kind of thing. I'm cheerful, everything's cool. Or it might just be, hey, here, I'm over here. But this one, I heard this one several times. Once when they had a brood earlier this year, and a brown-headed cowbird, and brown-headed cowbirds are parasites. They will lay their eggs in other birds' nests, and those birds will take care of those babies, and they're bigger birds, and they eat a lot. So often what happens, and I think this is what happened with our first brood not too long ago, the wren babies won't thrive because they're not getting enough nourishment because the cowbird babies take over. But towards when they were starting to fledge, and I could tell that because they were back and forth to the nest, a brown-headed cowbird male was trying to get into the nest. And the mama and papa wren, even though they're one of the tiniest birds, they're very, very spunky and kind of fierce and scary. So this is a noise they use to warn each other, or to when I've also heard them do this to chase a chipmunk away. So this is what it sounds like if they're upset or they're warning. Let's see if it's this one. So if you've probably heard that noise, and that's usually, it's an easy way to find them too. If you want to see if you have wrens nesting on your property, listen for those sounds. And then also, like when it starts to get a little bit, not quite dark, but before that, maybe around 5 o'clock, I'm not up early enough to see their early feedings because they get up, wrens are up very, very early. But if you listen for those noises, listen for the calls, and then see if you can find where they're going, and that will tell you sort of where the nest is, and you can watch them feed the babies back and forth. But if you hear that noise, sometimes, like if my dog gets too close to the nest, if it's somewhere in the backyard and not in the garage, they'll make that noise. But I also saw them use that noise when they're trying to get the babies, the fledglings, out of the nest. So they'll scold them. That's their scolding noise, and they'll keep coming. They'll stop feeding them and just say, okay, if you want to eat, you're going to have to come out here with me and get it yourself. And so then they'll use that noise to try to coax them out of the nest.
It's just like kids. No, you guys can feed yourself lunch. Go get it yourself.
Exactly. At some point they have to. But can you imagine babies 14 days old being ready to go out and eat on their own and walk and do those kind of things? It's just incredible how quickly they grow.
This morning I got up really early to take my dog out, and I heard so much birdsong. It was like 6:30.
Yep.
It was deafening. Nobody else was out in my neighborhood, just me and my dog, and it was so loud. It was beautiful.
How wonderful. And one of the reasons why, couple reasons why, right now is migration time. So we have a lot more birds in our area that are just passing through. I saw a rose-breasted grosbeak for the very first time earlier this week, just for a few days, and then they were gone, moving further up north for their breeding, because they'll breed further up north. Wrens, Carolina wrens, live here year round. They don't migrate. So my pair stays with me all year, and they come to my feeder all year, and they know me, and they'll come right down by my feet. I'll put some walnuts down by my feet, and they'll come right down by my feet. I haven't tried feeding them from my hand, and I'm not sure that I want to, not because I'm scared of them, but because you don't want them to get too
people.
But they'll come right beside me. They'll let me take their picture. They'll let me watch them when they're feeding their baby. They don't get upset with me at all. And I think they almost feel a sense of comfort when I'm nearby. My husband, they'll still dive bomb, but but they love my sons, and they actually even tolerate the dog. She'll just lie down right next to me, and they'll come right on the deck railing, even when she's right there. But the second reason why you're hearing so much bird song right now is because it is breeding time for a lot of birds around here. So it may be that they're, especially that early, they're feeding their babies. So they're calling to each other. They'll call to their babies to let them know. I was not too long ago when they were fledging, the papa wren would sing and the mother would respond. And then the babies, I could hear them in anticipation of getting fed. So that's another remarkable thing about the way that they communicate with each other and with other species. They get along with most others. And the wrens are foragers a lot too. They will come to my feeders a lot, but they're foragers, which means they will root around in the underbrush and heavy, dense foliage, and even on the ground, looking for grubs and all kinds of yummy, slimy things to feed their babies.
So across the street from our store is the Wild Bird Store, which is a great place to buy feeders and feed for birds. If there's some kids out there who are interested in birding, can you give us some ideas of what they could do?
Absolutely. One thing, grown-ups, a wonderful site that I strongly suggest that you find is the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. They have wonderful resources for families and kids. The Atlanta Audubon Society, they have a Facebook page. They have a website. They have a lot of educational programming that right now, like on Fridays, every Friday, and I joined this yesterday, the Atlanta Audubon Society will go on a virtual birding walk, and you can follow along with them, and they'll point out different plants and trees and different nests and things to listen for. Whereas before, and it's wonderful when you can go on an actual bird walk, but you don't even have to leave your house, and you can follow different people and learn so much. But one thing I strongly recommend, if you want to watch birds, get a feeder. You can make feeders. Actually, on my Pinterest page, I have a couple easy feeders that you can make at home. But like I said before, you can just put out a few nuts. Make your yard, your home more attractive to birds. To create a habitat that birds like, they really need 4 things, and that's a food source, a water source, shelter, somewhere where they can build their nest, and just space. One thing the Atlanta Audubon Society is doing right now is they're having a native plant sale. Native plants are very good for attracting birds and other wildlife to your yard, to your home. So you can check that out and see what our native species are. There are some plants that are not native and can be harmful to birds and wildlife. So you might want to check that out. On my website, I have some links to a lot of things. One is a bird bingo card that was from Mass Audubon. And that's something you can take out into your yard, and there are things to listen for. Sometimes if you're just very quiet and you kind of filter out all the other noise and listen, you'll be amazed at how many different bird sounds you can hear. Keep a little journal. What do you hear? Sort of map it out. Where are the sounds coming from? Because certain birds like certain kinds of trees. For example, my red-bellied woodpeckers, they love this tall tree that has bare branches. And those you can hear right now. Your woodpeckers are drumming a lot, and that's for sort of a breeding call, a mating call. So if you hear that, rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat, woodpeckers nearby, and there are a couple different woodpecker types that we'll see here in our area. So for a water source, I simply, grown-ups, I have a big saucer that a planter goes on, and I have it on top of my deck railing wedged in between the post and a planter. And I have some in my planter. I haven't planted any spring flowers yet because I just haven't, I don't feel it's safe enough yet to go out to a store to get that. But a lot of them will offer curbside delivery, so that's something I'm looking into. But if you have plants on near your feeders, that's very good because it gives them some shelter. A lot of times, my birds, I get I could easily see 25 different species at my feeders each day. But some of them will like hide in the, right now I still have pansies in my boxes, but they'll hide among the flowers and wait for their turn at the feeder. Some will just sit at the bottom of the feeder waiting. But there is a pecking order. So, if a grackle, those are these big black birds with kind of scary yellow eyes, but they're really iridescent purpley and kind of pretty in a way. They look very much like ravens. The other birds, pretty much all of them will split very quickly. So water source, a food source, shelter, make sure you have some place for them to shelter and to be safe. But just to go out and explore, do a treasure hunt in your backyard. You can also actually, right now when birds are nesting, you can leave them some nesting material. So if you have, I have a suet cage. It's like just a square, which I'm sure they have at the bird store.
Bird store, yeah.
Yes, it's just a square little cage, and you put like a block in there. It's called suet, and it has like nuts and berries and things. But you can use one of those and put some nesting material in it. Make sure they're natural things. Like if you can go around and find, if you have dog hair or cat hair that accumulates in your house a lot, you can actually put that in there, and they may use that.
I have that.
Sometimes some birds, I think it's mockingbirds, will actually pull the hair right off of a dog. They're very interesting. So different birds use different kinds of nesting materials. So that's something you can research, kids and grown-ups, and make a pile of that somewhere where it's protected, where it's safe for them to come get, and just sort of watch from a distance. Get some binoculars or a camera that has a zoom lens, and just kind of park yourself and be patient. Watch, listen.
This sounds like a great idea. I recorded this video actually this morning. It was around 8:30.
Okay.
You guys can hear it. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
There was just so many birds this morning.
Yeah. And at dusk, you'll hear tons and tons of bird song. It's just, there are some bird apps that are kind of like SoundHound, but for bird song. I don't know how effective they are right now, but the app that I use is called Merlin Bird ID, and actually next Saturday is something called the Global Big, and that's a day when you can collect information about the birds that you hear and that you see using a free bird app. And again, that's through Cornell Lab also. I don't know if maybe we can post them.
So I put in our links, which are that way, in the comments, a whole bunch of links. So I have the Cornell Bird website that you suggested, and the Atlanta Audubon. And then I also put a link to Randi's website, because on her website, she's got a whole page of bird stuff that's super fun. And this seriously is a great thing to do right now, because you can quarantine very nicely. You can stay at home and just listen in your backyard, but you have to be quiet. So
yes,
it's a great thing to do.
It's really fun to figure out which birds. So there are a lot of birding apps if you don't have a field guide, but if you I'm sure that you probably have field guides in your store.
I do.
And that are perfect for kids and grown-ups alike. If you like to draw, that's a great thing. If you can observe and draw and label, and birds have, very telltale features. So a lot of these bird sites, or the Cornell has All About Birds. I use that one a lot, and you can plug in certain features and it will sort of narrow down your choices. And then you can listen also to those bird sounds online and say, oh yeah, that's the sound that I heard. And that's one of the birds that I saw. So it must be that bird. My boys and I still do this, and I have a field guide, and whenever I see a new species, I'll write down where I saw it, the time I saw it, and the date. So that way I sort of know, like that rose-breasted grosbeak, I know when I saw it this time of year, my hummingbirds are already back. That's a very easy thing to do, grown-ups. You can make your own hummingbird feeder with like a 2-liter plastic bottle, but hummingbird feeders are super cheap. Don't go buy that red syrupy stuff. You don't need it. All you need is sugar and water. It's 1 part sugar to 4 parts water. Boil the water, dissolve the sugar in there, let it cool, put it in your feeder, they will come. And if you have plants up around your home on a deck or on a patio or somewhere close by, you can research the type of flowers that hummingbirds like. They were actually, my hummingbirds were actually drinking out of the pansies even, which that was, wouldn't expect them to do that. But you'll have hummingbirds. They will come. They're very territorial also. So if you have more than one, you probably want more than one feeder, but they'll come right above you and you can hear them. They have a very, very recognizable sound and you'll hear them humming. It's a buzz, like zoom, they'll zoom all over. Some people will wear these rings and they'll just come right to the ring and drink from the ring. They sell them at the bird store.
Wow. My parents have a hummingbird feeder right outside their window, and I was at their house one day and I was wearing a red scarf and this hummingbird buzzed me like wow. Came right up to my head, scared the bejesus out of me because I thought it was okay. I'm from Florida, so I thought it was a giant palmetto bug.
Yikes.
And I'm like, if I swat it, I will touch it. So hold still and it'll go away. And the hummingbird backed up, looked at me, and I swear he gave me this look like, how dare you not be a flower, buzzed me again, and then flew away.
Birds are so fascinating. I love to take bird photographs. So I have a lot of those on my Instagram page. So if you care to follow me there on Instagram, I think I'm Sonenshine68, but there is a link on my website to my Instagram page. I post a lot of my bird photos. And I took a picture of the rose-breasted grosbeak the other day, and on it, I swear he was giving me stink eye. It's kind of like this Popeye thing. But they're really fascinating to watch, not just their individual behaviors, but their way that they interact with each other. You'll start to see who's like the wren that's very, very tiny is pretty spunky and he's not going to be deterred very easily. Whereas like the red-bellied woodpecker, who's really big, and he has a little bit of red, he has some red on his head, but that's not the red-headed woodpecker. The red-headed woodpecker is a darker red and his whole head is red. The red-bellied woodpecker has a little bit of red on his head and then his wings are black and white striped. He's just beautiful. He's my buddy. He comes every year. He lives here year round, but he gets spooked very quickly and doesn't stick around for very long. If I just tapped on the window, zoom, he's gone. But some of these smaller birds will they'll just hang around, especially the wrens. And that's one of the reasons why I love them, is because they're such sassy little, I'm short. I'm only 5'1", so I sort of relate to the wrens a little bit. They're small. They have a big voice, and they have a really, really fun, spunky personality. So sometimes if I haven't put out any walnuts or if I'm low on the seed, they will actually come to my window and just sort of make it's like their little cheer noise. They won't scold me, but they'll cheer, cheer, cheer. And I'm okay. So since I've been home, like most of you, because our schools have been closed since actually the week after my book came out, which was not great timing, but it's okay. I'm so glad I get to do this live stream events. But anyway, since I've been home, I put the walnuts out every morning. I just take 2 walnuts and I just break them into smaller pieces. Actually, wrens have really strong beaks. They're curved. I have to show you something really neat. Let me grab it. A friend of mine is a knitter, and she made this for me.
Aw,
isn't that cute? So it's a little wren, but wrens, just like in this picture, they have very long curved beaks, and that that's one of their adaptations too. Some birds have very short, wide beaks. Hummingbirds. There's a neat STEM activity. I think I've linked it from my website on different beaks, so that you can try at home different materials, trying to get different objects. Like the hummingbirds, they have those very long, thin beaks that can get down into flowers to sip the nectar, like a straw. So that's part of their adaptations. But anyway, I put the walnuts every morning, and they come. And if I don't put them out there, they will come and let me know. We're waiting.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Randy. This has been a lot. Oh, I've learned so much. Anybody's interested in a copy of the Nest That Wren Built, we can get it for you. Please support your local independent bookstore. There it is. Please support your local independent bookstore. So if it's not Read It Again, find your local bookstore and say, hey, I really want to copy the Nest That Wren Built. You should do that because this is a gorgeous book. And I think it'd be a great treasure to any library. So thank you again, Randy.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had so much fun.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.